let's talk about watch design, specifically about watch face design, and what I like to see when I look at a watch. We'll begin with this watch, and even though you can see the brand, I prefer that we don't talk about brands, because that's not the point. I'm not trying to shame any particular brand. I'm just trying to point out certain characteristics that are general across brands and across watch designs. So, in my opinion, such a watch that has no gradations for the hours at least, not to mention the minutes, has no place other than wrist decoration. And if you want wrist decoration in the form of a watch, then you're welcome to get such a watch. Otherwise, it's hard to tell the exact time. I'm not talking about telling it to the second, but at least being able to tell it to the minute. That would be nice. And it's not present on this watch. With that being said, my wife likes it, so okay. Now, it's hard to talk about wrist decoration without looking at a watch like this, which in my opinion is so horribly busy that it's sometimes difficult to even tell the time when you're looking at it. I can see how certain people are attracted to the bling factor in the watch. I mean, it just, for its price, it just looks expensive. All of that relief work over there in the metal and the shiny stuff probably attracts a lot of people. But me, I like to look at the design and I like to look at the functionality. And again, my criteria by which I judge watches are how easy is it to actually tell time on them? How nice is it to look at it without your eyes being tired or your mind going bonkers because you can't see where the hands are and you can't figure out why in the world that decoration is there. So I guess you can see that this is where the seconds are, right? That's sort of easy to tell once you look at the watch for a few seconds. These are the hands of the watch. They sort of stand out, not really when they pass over this stuff. But then when it comes to the date, you're kind of stuck. I mean, where do you look to read the date? Do you read the date here? Do you read the date there? Or do you read it here, but here where? Do you choose to read it here? Do you choose to read it there, here? So it's really confusing. And I've actually seen designs like this. I mean, this happens to be a watch that you can purchase at a fairly affordable price, but I've seen a design like this in a much more expensive watch. And by more expensive, I'm talking over $1,000, whereas you can get this watch for under $100, probably under $50. When you talk about busy design, you also look at this outer band here, which I have no idea what the purpose of it is. I guess it's also the dates, but this doesn't actually move. Only this band here moves. So this is just purely for decoration or whatever purpose it serves, I have no idea. This watch has what I'd like to call functional design. That is, if you only look at the middle of its faceplate. If you start looking toward the edges, it's really confusing. All those lines and gradations, that's going overboard with the lines and gradations here. And I've seen this feature on a lot of watches where you can use it to calculate various things, and the instruction book for the watch came with instructions, I guess, on how to figure out the speed that you're going at and how to figure out lots of other stuff and how to even do basic algebra with the watch or basic math. And you know, while it might have been useful at some point in the history for a very limited number of people to be able to do this stuff on their watch, nowadays you can just pull out your phone, or if you are the nerdy type, you can pull out your calculator watch, you know, the one with the keys on it, and then do calculations in a much easier fashion. This, I find, is sort of like just a bling design for the people who are interested in this sort of bling, which is lots of lines, lots of busy stuff. For me, it's just not that appealing. If they actually stripped all of this off and just stayed with this would have been useful right here. Now, one feature that I always like to see is the date being able to be easily read, and on this watch it is fairly easy to read it. So, yeah, As for the ways to adjust it, I've been using this watch for a while. It's pretty easy to adjust, so it's fine. Now we're going to look at this watch. And again, no talking about brands, not at this point. I found the colors on this watch interesting, and I also found the numbers easy to read, and so is the date. It's fairly easy to read. The hands are also really easy to see, and that's what attracted me to the watch. It also looked fairly sturdy. But then as you look closer, you see that instead of hours, it's listing minutes. And really, who wants to tell the time by saying, oh, it's 23:36 right now? I mean, it's kind of confusing for someone who doesn't know what's going on with the watch. I guess the folks who designed this watch were into minutes a lot. I don't know what other explanation I can find for this. Other than that, I do like the design. The branding could have been a little less obvious. This stuff, honestly, I don't need to see it on the watch face. It could have been listed on the back. But other than that, it's a pretty good layout. It's very easy to read, especially at night, because this is an Indiglo watch. One thing I do like to point out here is that this watch was obviously assembled by a robot, not by a human being. And somebody didn't look at their microns when they programmed that robot, because, and this is not an artifice of the way I'm holding the camera. You see, if I rotate the watch, you can clearly see that the triangle and all these lines are closer to the left side of those indentations or ridges than to the right side. And this is because whoever programmed that robot to assemble the watches didn't do it carefully enough so that everything was lined up perfectly in the middle of the ridges. So, and quality control, I guess, didn't pick up on it afterward either. So there's something to be said for really careful faceplate design on the watches. And microns do matter. This design, nice, classy, simple, easy to read, but again, no minute gradations, so you can sort of tell the time, but I would really love to see those minutes listed there on the side. It's much easier to tell time that way. I realize doing all the stuff on every watch kind of makes a design boring, because sometimes you want to push the limits. And they've certainly done a good job. But then again, you do want the basics on a watch, right? You want to be able to tell time. That's its main purpose. If you buy a watch so it's just wrist decoration, then fine, buy it so it's wrist decoration. I do love the fact that it's got this rounded circle here. The second hand is a neat touch there, although what I would have loved to see is a date. This watch is an example of almost perfect design, but not quite. Somewhere between 85 to 90% of the way there. And let me just go through what I think is really nice about it, and then point out the things that are not so nice. So Roman numerals instead of Arabic numbers, nice. You do like to see that on a watch from time to time. It certainly harks back to the days when Roman numerals were the standard on watches. So I don't know if you can see it, but the finish of the faceplate of this watch is really, really nice. It's sort of like this iridescent seashell. I don't think it's real seashell, but it's really, really nice. It's sort of like almost luxury. To me, it feels like luxury. Or it looks like luxury, actually. I can't put my hands on it and feel it. But it's really, really nice. The hands are easy to see. The second hand is easy to see. I love this touch where they show the sun and the moon, and it's really neat. It's a really neat touch. Say you fall asleep in the middle of winter, right? It's an afternoon nap. You wake up, you have no idea if you've slept through the night or if it's still the same day. Sure, nowadays you can pull out your phone and look at the time, and there you go. You can see it right away. But I remember falling asleep as a young boy, and I'd wake up and be nobody around, and I'd look at the time, and I'd have no idea how much I slept. I didn't know whether I slept through the night or not. On this watch, it's easy to tell, you know. The annual calendar part, not really so nice. I really don't see the point of this stuff here. on a watch. Perhaps the month, yeah, okay, perhaps the month. But the year, what happens with the year is that this watch only has about 10 or 12 years programmed into it. Programmed, that's a wrong word, but actually stamped on the little plate that turns to display the years. And so come around 2020, I think, is when this watch expires, because the years are no longer going to be displaying properly. So unless you can program maybe like at least 50 years of years in there, then there's no point in putting the year on a watch, on a mechanical watch, because it's not going to be able to tell time properly once that limited period expires. If you only intend on wearing this watch or having it for a few years, then that's fine, but personally I like to keep my watches as long as I can. The month is nice because obviously there's only 12 of them, they never vary, so as long as you can fit all 12 of them in there, then that's fine. What's not nice on this watch is that neither the year nor the month turn automatically, and so there's actually little buttons on the side that you push. This one's for the months, and there's one on that side for the year, and you advance them manually whenever it's time to do it. So again, I just, when I bought the watch, I thought, gee, that might be a neat feature, but after I had the watch for a while and I used it, discovered it's not really that neat of a feature. It's sort of like a blingy feature, and I'm not really big on bling. Yeah. If it doesn't advance automatically, what's the point? And besides, are you ever going to fall asleep for more than a month and then you need to tell the month when you wake up? And even if you do, you won't be able to tell the month when you wake up here because it doesn't advance automatically. And what's the point with the year? I mean, if you go around not knowing what year it is, boy, you're a really confused person, and a watch ain't going to do it for you to get you straight. So again, what's the point? The days of the week, yeah, I love to see that feature on a watch, but not like this. And I've been seeing this sort of design like for the days of the week and the actual day of the month on a lot of watches, even more expensive watches. And I think it's the silliest thing ever, because it's really hard to squint and actually see the day, and it's even harder to squint and see it here. It's really, really difficult, especially when you're outside and you have to find a place where the light falls just right on the watch, and if you've just been staring into the distance for a while and your eyes have to focus back on this really close distance, you just can't tell it. I'd much rather be able to tell the day of the week and the day of the month like this, with something that displays it really clearly. On this watch, they did also a pretty, well, let's not criticize too much, but they did try, but they should have gotten the coloring correct, because the color contrast between this blue and that gray over there, it's just, there's not enough of a contrast for anyone to be able to read it properly, especially when the lettering is this tiny. So if you're going to go this route, if you're a watch manufacturer and you're going to go this route, please at least make the contrast better so people can read it. Or just do the right thing and do it like this, okay? It may be a classic, it may be done on a lot of watches, but you know what, it works. It works, it's easy to read, so just do it that way. Alright, so we've reached a portion of video when I talk about virtual watches. Virtual in the sense that I'm going to be showing them to you online, since I don't own them. So let's start with this watch. Again, no talking about brands. This is a watch with a classic design, whose design resembles a watch that was first made in the 1920s or so. I don't exactly know its name, but this has sort of been brought up to date a bit, but I still just love the design. So let me just take you through its features. It's got a date feature, and this particular date feature is much more complicated. Well, not much more, but more complicated than the typical date feature that you find on a normal watch. Say like this one. You see, this one has a single disc with the numbers printed on it, going from 1 to 31, and it rotates one notch every day. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, As long as you can get that disc to rotate 1 notch every day, you're good to go. This particular watch actually has 2 discs. First one is imprinted with the numbers 1 through, actually 0 through 3, and the other one is imprinted with the numbers 0 through 9. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think I got that right, but I may not. So there are 2 discs, and they rotate individually, separately. Well, they're connected through an intricate mechanism, but they rotate individually to produce the proper date for you. And so the mechanism is more complicated, hence the price tends to go up on these things. But I think it's worth it. First of all, the lettering is much bigger and you can read the date right away, and it's just a lot neater to actually see the 2 discs rotating separately. I love it. So that's a feature that's wonderful, and of course it's featured prominently right at the top of the watch because it's a complication, and complications make the watches more valuable. It's got a day of the week feature as well. Not really a fan of this, as I covered in the first part of the video, because this is a fairly simple mechanism for the watchmaker to put in place, and it just also doesn't look as good for me as something like this with a printed disc where the lettering is easy to read. Here you got a pointer going around a circle, whoop-de-doo, you know. I don't like it. But at the same time, I do have to say that the lettering is big enough here and the contrast is proper enough that you can easily read this. And so, if you have to go for a watch like this, at least pick one where you can actually do that, where you can actually read it. Yeah, not a fan of this. I've seen it on a lot of automatic watches. Some of them even have 2 of these. I just think it's so blingy, so garish, that it doesn't appeal to me in the least, and actually puts me off from buying a watch that looks like that. I'm sorry if it offends any of the watchmakers. I'm sure you guys go a lot of trouble to put it over there, and you want to show off the complicated automatic mechanism because that's a part of it, and wow, it's beautiful, and look at it, it's moving. But I don't like to see it there. I just don't. So there you have it. I love the minute gradations, I love the lettering, it's just wonderful. And now look at the price for this watch. Again, not talking about the brand. Price right here. I'm going to show you a watch that's almost identical. And look at the price for this. Okay, so this is a watch that's almost the same as the other one. It's got the same date feature, same watch face design. The colors differ, but same watch face design. It's got an extra button here, I'm guessing for timer feature, I'm not sure. But we're not here to talk about specs, we're here to talk about design. And the same annoying automatic winding mechanism bling here. Now, you know what the difference between these 2 watches is? The deal breaker for me? Not the price. If I were in the market right now for a watch like this and I was looking at both of them inside a store, if I were to decide which one to get over between these 2, the deciding feature for me would be this right here. The contrasting is terrible on this watch. They're both the same dimension, 42mm case, but look how hard it is to read here and here. And if I go to the other watch, look how easy it is to read here and here. This is where it pays off hugely, folks. If you're making watches, make the contrasting, make it, give it proper contrast, and make the lettering big enough so that a guy can read it. And ideally you want a guy whose vision isn't as good as mine, perhaps. You know, a guy who's looking at the watch with 20/40 vision or 20/50 or who knows, with you know, vision that is not as good as 20/20, to be able to tell the time and to be able to tell the day of the week and tell the month without having to look at it with a magnifying glass. So make that lettering and the contrast proper. Give it some thought, because it pays off. Yeah. So let's go on to the next watch. Again, I'm not talking about brands here. I know the brand is pretty obviously featured on this webpage, but let's talk about the watch. I love the design of this watch. From there I've said it. It's just beautiful. It's a two-tone design with this wonderful bright silver and the deep brown leather. It's just beautiful. The contrast is there, even though you may not think it at first, but it's there. Look how easy it is to tell a date. Look how easy it is to tell a time. And it doesn't have a day of the week and a month feature, but it's got a timer. It's got a secondary time zone. It's got the second thingy moving there. So it's just neat. It's a neat watch to have. It looks great. And it's definitely at the top of my list if I were to buy a watch like it right now. Yeah. And I love the stitching on the watch band too. But if you've watched my other video, then you know I'm already a fan of nice stitching on the watch bands. Let's look at this watch. I liked it at first. I love the Roman numerals around the watch face. I love the lettering on the second hand here and this timer hand here. It's just really nice. It's reminiscent of the lettering on my on my pocket watch. I'm not going to mention brands here, but I have an old pocket watch, a sterling silver pocket watch made by this company. Just gorgeous design. I mean, as soon as I saw it there, where I bought it, I just had to have it, even though it wasn't working properly and I'm still trying to fix it, but it just looks so good, you know. It's a kind of pocket watch that makes you want to look at it. Yeah, so this is great design right here. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. But this watch has a strike going against it. It's too busy here on the sides. And I'm sorry if I am offending any watch connoisseurs out there, but I don't know what this is, and I don't want to know what this is. All I know is that it's bothering me when I look at the watch. It makes it too busy for me, and I don't like that. So let's go on to the next watch. This is a great design. I love this design. The contrast may not be as good as on the other watches, but it's still pretty darn good. I mean, look at these big, bright white letters. You can still tell the time quite easily on this watch. And I love this tilted design that makes it easier to look at it without having to bring the wrist all the way to your chest to tell it properly. With this, you can just sort of tilt the wrist toward your face and tell the design right away. Tell the time right away. So it's nice, but again, this watch has a strike going against it because it's too busy here. It just draws too much attention to this busy stuff here on the sides, and it takes away from the beauty of the design, first of all, this tilted design, and the beauty of the other things you find on the watch, like the lettering here inside. And I love how they integrate the date into the second hand there. It's just beautiful. That's really a really nice touch. Okay, next watch. I love the classic design of this watch. I have nothing bad to say about it. Just love it. It says a lot about knowing how to make a classic, elegant watch. It's just beautiful. Love the Roman numerals, love the minute gradations, love the two-tone design of the watch hands. I love how the second hand reflects the tone of the watch case. It's just a beautiful, beautiful design. Love it. Now here's my favorite design, at least the one that I saw right now, but boy, this is just beautiful. It's almost ideal for me. I love this watch face. It's got this sort of oyster shell finish. It may even be oyster shell, I don't know, but it's really hard to make this, guys. Do you know how hard it is to make this? Of course they've got robots making it, but it's still hard to make this. And to give it the proper texture and just the proper finish that reflects the sunlight so beautifully when you go outside. You can't really appreciate the beauty of this watch face here until you actually wear the watch on your hand and you go outside and the sun hits it just right and you go, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, this is wonderful. I love this design. I love the watch hands, I love the date. I love this indicator of the power left and the automatic movement. I love the band and the stitching, of course. I love how they took the watch face all the way to the edges of the case. This is really nice. They made the edge really thin. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful, beautiful watch. So yeah, this brings me to the end of my talk about watch design. I hope this has been helpful to you. This is why I made the video, to make it easy for you to pick a watch design that you like. Obviously I've talked about the designs that I like, but at least this has helped clarify in your mind what you like and what you don't like. Perhaps you like the same stuff as me, perhaps you don't. But let me recap what I've been talking about. So what do I look for in a watch design or a watch face? I look for simple, easy to read, elegant, uncomplicated, great contrast, great lettering, good coloring, actually great coloring, not just good coloring, great texture, you know, to the watch face, to the back, like you see here with this oyster shell. It's just got to be a watch that you want to look at, a watch that you love to look at, because you're going to be wearing it all day. And if you don't love to look at it, if you have to squint at it to read any of the things that it's doing for you, then the design has gone wrong. Then there's something wrong with it. It's not fulfilling its function, right? A watch should be able to tell time for you. It should be able to tell it easy. Shouldn't need a magnifying glass. And more than that, a watch should feel like it's measuring time for you. And I don't mean that in a simple way, right? I don't mean that in, oh look, it's the second hand is moving around, it's measuring the time all right. No, it should feel like a little capsule of time that sits on your hand and sort of quantifies time for you. It's sort of an abstract notion that becomes apparent to you when you wear the right watch. And the right watch will do that to you. So, yeah, what would be an ideal watch face for me right now? It would be something like this, the one you see here, but it would be something that would also tell the day of the week with clear lettering, not that silly pointer going around the circle, and also the month. The month would be nice. So, you know, you'd be able to say, tell right away, hey, I'm on the 23rd of July 2012. We're in October now, but whatever. And if it could do that, it would be an ideal watch. Still, don't let those particular functions detract from the beauty of this watch, for example. This is almost perfect for me. Sorry, I'm not trying to advertise the brand here, but the design is just beautiful. Whoever designed this watch, I'd love to shake their hand and congratulate them. Just gorgeous. Okay, so again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos from me. Thanks, bye.